Natalie is in the midst of a 3-hour labour. She's at home and the only person to assist is her husband.
No birth is ever safe. Some complications arise. However, the safest for me was definitely going to be unhindered.
Oh, God, yes.
This is what's called free birthing.
I have never been happier, more proud, more joyful, more fulfilled.
Oh!
Midwives are worried unassisted births like this are on the rise.
Why is that a good position in the pool?
Well, because you can see where the baby's coming out. And
We're in a situation now that I've probably never been so concerned as I am now. Sometimes I put a really hot cloth on as well.
Professor of Midwifery Hannah Darlin says these student midwives are entering a profession under siege.
The current climate for private midwives in Australia, I think, is toxic. I think there is a witch hunt going on that doesn't involve fire, but involves an incredible amount of trauma. If the head is deeply engaged...
Hannah Darlin says the growing interest in free birth is due to a dramatic decline in the number of private midwives. Part of the problem is midwives' insurance. It's inadequate in one very crucial way.
The moment labour starts to them, 1 hour after birth, midwives are not covered, so they risk their homes, they risk their families. When you've got a head down...
Currently, midwives are allowed to attend home births without being insured because the federal government gave them an exemption, but it's running out.
So in December 2019, when the exemption for insurance expires, there's a real potential that women will not be able to access a registered midwife for their home birth. So they will turn to birth workers, or they will turn to doing it themselves. And that is a real concern. There is a very real possibility that more babies will die.
In June, unregistered midwife Lisa Barrett was charged with manslaughter over the deaths of babies at 2 high-risk home births in South Australia. The case is still before the court.
Women keep looking until they find someone down the end of the road who will take them on. It's a symptom of a broken system. By attacking individuals, by criminalising individuals or criminalising, birth by birth workers, etc., I don't think is addressing the root cause. The root cause is right back up this end in the hospital system.
The maternity system in Australia wants women to birth babies in hospital. And home birth really isn't something that they want to support or want to be seen to be supporting.
Until recently, Kelly Zakharov was a private midwife running a thriving practice, delivering hundreds of babies at home.
It was 24 hours a day, 365 days, a year.
These days, the equipment Kelly would use at home births is packed away in her garage.
Resuscitation equipment for both baby and mother. We also would carry a 4 to 5 litre oxygen bottle.
While doing the job she loved, Kelly was reported to the Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, or AHPRA, by hospital staff after bringing mothers attempting a home birth to hospital when they ran into trouble.
The hospitals were given notification that we were transferring these women in. We had documented the reasons to transfer. We had documented the conversations that we had with the clients. We had documented that the clients had not given consent to be taken to hospital. Another part of the report was that I didn't transfer these women in ambulances. Neither of these women were imminently having babies. There was no reason to use ambulances. I honestly can't tell you the reason why the reports were put in. A lot of midwives have had reports against them. They are vindictive.
Professor Darlin agrees.
From our research and from the telephone calls we've had and the small number of private midwives that are around, we reckon at least half of them have been reported to AHPRA in the last 4 to 5 years.
In that time, she estimates the number of private midwives has halved to just 100. The final straw for Kelly was being the primary midwife at a home birth when a baby was stillborn.
I made a very difficult decision to stop practicing as a midwife due to the event.
No, actually, the lawyer actually
After Kelly closed her business, AHPRA found she posed no serious risk and cleared her to keep working.
Will you go back to being a midwife?
I'm not sure that I'll be a home birth midwife again, as much as I want to. It's just harder. It's hard. It's almost too hard.
The catastrophic events that happen in a split second happen at home and in hospital. Is there evidence to show that if everyone's in hospital, they're less likely to happen and more babies are likely to survive? There isn't. So bad things happen in hospital too, and we forget that.
The peak body for obstetricians has long been opposed to home birth in any circumstances. But this leading obstetrician disagrees. He was part of a research team reviewing home births in Victoria over the last 15 years.
Home birth is safe. So for the majority of women who are healthy, whose pregnancy is uncomplicated, particularly for those women who are having the second or subsequent baby, who've had a normal birth before, home birth is safe.
Safe for those under 35 years old, of normal weight, with no major health issues and a full-term baby. And no significant risk factors like some other pregnancies.
The majority of adverse events at a home birth will be around things like twins, breaches, and women who are over 42 weeks. If you look at the data, that captures the majority of them.
You're going to help us with the washing? Here you go, that's your one.
Natalie's pregnancy was considered high risk. But a bad hospital experience with the birth of her first child drove her to explore other options.
Very helpful, Diane. Very helpful.
The local birthing centre rejected her, and there was no private female midwife in her area for a home birth. She decided to go it alone. As Natalie's labour progressed, her baby's shoulders got stuck.
I threw myself onto the bed and I did a real sort of guttural sound. And that was her shoulders birthing. And out she flopped onto the nice soft bed. She was sort of floppy and a little bit colourless. I swept her up and she took a breath, and as soon as that happened I knew she was responsive, I knew her reflexes were intact, and I knew that she was fine.
It is disturbing. Little precious. You're okay.
But Natalie herself was losing blood.
I did pass out a couple of times. I sort of was resting, I call it. I took a little bit of a rest. No, we did not need to go to hospital. I just was fine. But I think there was some stress there.
Can I sleep with Mama?
Let's have a little nap.
Natalie and her daughter were lucky. They recovered well.
The very small risk that was posed, I felt that I was prepared to take. And if there was a death of my baby or a death of me, then I was capable of grieving, or if I was dead, my partner was capable of grieving.
That's a big statement, that you contemplated your death or your baby's death as a real possibility.
Yeah. We didn't go into it naively or in denial. We went into it with a calculated risk assessment.
There will be some people who've heard what you had to say and think it's one thing for you to put yourself at risk, but you put your baby at risk.
Yes, I think I've heard that before. I think my favourite saying is that no one is more invested in their baby than the mother herself. I know how to keep my babies healthy and safe.
Free birthing is women giving birth at home without a skilled attendant with them. That is the norm for most low-resource nations around the world. We know what the outcome of that is as a population, and it's not good.
The peak body for obstetricians will never support free birth, but it's currently revising its position on home birth. That may make the difference as to whether private home birth is available in 2 years' time.
As a country, we're going to need to make a determination of whether we want to support choice for women.
If we think by taking away women's midwives, we're going to have them all like good little girls marching into hospital, we need to think again.